welcome back to the Beardworks podcast. Season 2, we're kicking it off. Nick, how you been, man? How was your Christmas and New Year's?
Oh yeah, standard Christmas family stuff. New Year's pretty good, pretty munted. A few snorkels.
Yeah, we're back. It was interesting, kind of period there. We didn't find much to do with ourselves really, with everything that was going on. Christmas and New Year's we couldn't really record, but we were playing video games though. That's the main thing. So
I hammered heaps of games. I finished so many last year.
Yeah. So I mean, what did you finish up? What was your count for the last year?
30.
30 games for the whole year.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, and I probably played more than that, but I didn't finish every single game.
Yeah, of course. No, I know there was a little period there where you were smashing them out, especially when you finish uni. But
yep.
Yeah. No, awesome, man. Well done. I guess that's a feat that some of us want to achieve. Now we're getting on in life. I guess we get more busier. So good work for now, I guess. But let's talk about a game that you got to finish. I haven't finished it yet, but I got to start, and we spoke about it last year as well. And that was Valhalla.
Yeah. It's good. It's better than I thought it was going to be, but it is very the same the whole way through. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, you've started it. The story's good, but the setting is just so depressing and boring. Just paddocks.
Funny you should say that, because obviously Pap is our residential bloody Assassin's Creed fanboy who plays it every year, or every time one gets released. He gets it for Christmas pretty much and finishes it off over that little time period. And he's actually come out and said that he doesn't really enjoy it that much. So the setting is quite doom and gloom, and it's not that fun to play around with. He's saying, I spoke to him yesterday, and he was saying that his favorite Assassin's Creed, or this new sort of combat kind of system and the way they've created the new games, is Origins, the original one that came out, a few years ago. So him saying that, and he loves Viking era kind of stuff, and yeah, just to hear him say that he just finds it a bit doom and gloom as well and not that enjoyable, then it says a bit about it, I guess.
Well, it's like the Dark Ages, man. Like, there's nothing. It's just, there's a paddock. Oh, wait, there's a castle over there. Oh, wait, you can't go in it because it's just smashed and shit. Like, it's... Oh, They could have done... It would have been better if they just went full hectic in Norway with the Norse mythology, like a little bit more towards God of War style, rather than like realistic England.
Yeah, I guess so. That's fair enough. I mean, I have to say I enjoyed it, but yeah, I haven't gone through and finished. I've probably played about 25 hours worth now, but just over that little break there, especially when Cyberpunk came out, I was sort of like invested in that. And for people that hadn't checked out a video on YouTube yet, there is a video of a little, tease of what's the first 10 hours would give you in Cyberpunk. Go check it out if you had a chance. But yeah, overall, I probably didn't get enough into it, and I will go back and finish it. I know that for a fact. But yeah, it's a bit of a letdown, I guess. I felt like it started off pretty strongly, but as you're saying, it probably dies off, throughout the game as well. So it's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, it's just too much of the same. It's just, pledge to this part of the map. Go do missions for this lady. Or go to this part. And it's just a checklist by the end of it. You're not enjoying the story because it's just next area. Like, I feel like the last Assassin's Creed Odyssey it's not as long apparently, or not as big apparently, but it felt bigger. It felt better.
Yeah.
Like, this one's more of a grind just to get through it, because I ended up, because I was just getting so frustrated of doing like grinding to level up for different areas. I just did areas under leveled and just struggled my way through just to get them done.
Yeah, fair enough.
You should be enjoying your games, not just finishing them.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what they do next with Assassin's Creed, because they sort of now hit these 3 games now, and the new combat people probably enjoy. But like you're saying, this was a bit of a, I don't know. I don't want to say it was a miss. I definitely think it hit on some levels for gamers, but maybe not for everyone. Maybe they take a break for a little while and maybe start with a different kind of new IP. Watch Dogs. That Watch Dogs was a bit of a letdown. Legion, it felt like it wasn't really centered around a certain character. When you could play multiple characters, it's always hard to get that feeling of you're in that player's shoes. So it's a bit of a shame. But it is what it is. So I think, talking about video games that have been a bit of a letdown, or we could talk about Cyberpunk. Obviously, in the video I just mentioned earlier, I spoke about how I did enjoy the first 10 hours of it, and I have been playing on PC. So I have to admit that me playing on PC, I haven't come across many bugs. I think I got one quest that was bugged, and I can go back and play it. And I just redid a save like 5 minutes prior to that, and it was fine. But yeah, it is a bit of a shame that it had such a terrible launch. And we'll talk about Cyberpunk when it gets fully released on next gen consoles and all the updates, and when it's out, when it's playable. And because I've played about 15 hours now, so another 5 hours on top of that video that I showed in the December last year. But yeah, I just over the Christmas period and New Year's period, I haven't touched it. I don't know if I haven't been drawn back to it, or I'm just sick of sitting on my PC and playing video games rather than sitting on my couch on my PlayStation 5. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame. I know you were keen on it, and then you were just completely let down.
Yeah, I cancelled my pre-order when I just heard that like console versions, even like emulating the PS4 one on the 5, like it was just absolute rat shit. So like I'll just wait for the PS5 disc to come out and then I'll go through it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And so, but I still stand by my saying that you should definitely give it a chance when it comes out, because I still think it's going to be one of the better games that you'll probably play in the last couple of years and even in the next couple of years. It's got the potential. It's just a shame that it happened the way it did, and people sort of, I think, have left that ship to sail for some people. But please, if you're listening, give it a crack when it comes out. But let's talk about one of the best Christmas presents that we got this year, and it came early in December, but it doesn't matter. It was one of the coolest things that happened this year, and it has to do with Star Wars. And I myself have been bit by the Star Wars bug again. I love my Star Wars, and recently, after certain scenes that happen in a certain TV show, I've just come back full force, I think you could say, and just absolutely loving the Star Wars content at the moment. And we'll get onto that shortly. Let's talk about that one moment in a certain show that we both love, Nick.
Yeah, well, one X-Wing shows up. Everyone's like, oh, no help? Yeah, right. It's all the help you need, mate. Luke Skywalker, big dog, starts swinging Mandalorian finale.
Unbelievable. Season 2, like as I was saying, I started the Mandalorian probably in October. Like I did the first episode when it first came out, and then I just didn't get into it. So I went on and continued and smashed it out. And as I got further on, I loved it. And obviously the reveal of season 1, obviously guys, massive spoilers ahead, but you've already heard the biggest one. But obviously end of season 1, you see the Darksaber, which is from the Clone Wars, and obviously there's heaps more lore around that blade. So obviously you thought, okay, this is really cool. We get to see a lightsaber version, I guess, in the Mandalorian, which is cool because we didn't know what we were going to expect. We didn't know what to expect from the Mandalorian in terms of Jedi and Sith and that kind of things. But to see where it went obviously we saw Grogu. Eventually we hear his name, or Baby Yoda. We know that what kind of being he is and what he has with the Force. So seeing what happens when they build on that in season 2 was absolutely awesome. I love the Ahsoka episode. I absolutely think it was awesome. And in saying that, that's the first time I've actually seen Ahsoka in action, because I've seen bits and pieces of Clone Wars, but never a full, concurrent episode and like season. So watching her fight was kind of cool. And now, because of that, I've gone back and started watching the Clone Wars, and I'm absolutely loving the Clone Wars as well. So what did you think of that Ahsoka episode?
Yeah, they definitely did Ahsoka justice. Like, she just starts carving them up straight away. Just like, boom, boom, boom. Like, it's so cool because I've watched all of Clone Wars and all of Rebels, and she's like a big player in both of those series. And it's dope to see like her reel. And that line she drops at the end, "Where's Thrawn?" That's just they're going to have the Star Wars Rebels characters in her TV show, which was another announcement, which is, the announcements are bloody, I could talk for about 6 days on them, I reckon. Yeah,
and we will get to those announcements shortly, but now we're going to go straight back to that big moment in the episode of the finale of season 2. We were all thinking, this is the first time we've actually all sat around and watched a Mandalorian episode together. I was down in Adelaide, my mate was down with me, or Pap, I should say, was with us, and we had a few other mates with us, and we were sitting around watching it. And when that X-Wing rocked up, we're like, there's no way in the world they're bringing back Luke. We all thought there's going to be different characters. We thought maybe Ezra or even Cal Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order.
We all were thinking Cal, I reckon, deep down.
Yeah, we wanted Cal. I mean, not saying what we got was bad and wasn't what we wanted. It was just a complete shock because, from what we had heard, that Mark Hamill had stepped away from the character of Luke Skywalker after The Last Jedi because that was such a letdown. And, he's explained himself now in the past few years about The Last Jedi and how he thought that his character, it wasn't his character anymore, that Luke was just a figure in this story that he didn't portray it anymore. It's just whoever writes the story, he has to play that character. So it's a real shame that happened to him. But to see him come back and not just a Luke Skywalker that was, just still getting his feet as the Jedi. This is like Jedi Master Luke Skywalker. Because obviously at the Return of the Jedi, we see him. He's still quite young. I think he's only like 23 in the story. He's only 23 as a Master Jedi then when he versus Darth Vader, and the Emperor. So we know he's not at his peak yet. So to see where he is now against the Dark Troopers was absolutely amazing.
This Luke reminds me of. Did you play Jedi Knight Jedi Academy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that Luke. How they say like, oh, if you went up against his training bot, you'd be killed because he's that strong and stuff. Like this Luke would just destroy everything.
Well, we'd seen earlier on in the episode, we'd seen the Mandalorian fight this Dark Trooper, and he was just getting absolutely destroyed. Like there was a point where he was smashing his helmet with the fist of the robot was smashing it with his fist, and it was just like denting the inner walls of the ship. Because obviously the Beskar helmet is impenetrable nearly. And yeah, it's just I couldn't believe that. It was unbelievable, and that was just one of them. And then you see them all come flying back at the end there because we knew something was going to happen because that final battle with Moff Gideon and the Mandalorian was good, but we knew something else was coming, didn't we?
Yeah, it wasn't a final fight, but like I love the setup. They make these Dark Troopers out to be indestructible. They're the most sickest things. They're like that's Moff Gideon's like final call off. The Dark Troopers are here. We've won. That's it. Luke shows up and goes through them like they're pieces of shit. It's like Obi-Wan going against just clankers in Clone Wars. Just nothing. They can't do anything. It
was so cool to see. And obviously there's a direct comparison from the Vader scene in Rogue One, and then there's the Luke Skywalker scene in The Mandalorian where he comes out of the elevator and just there's like a whole hallway full of these Dark Troopers and he just cuts them down. And the best thing was when he did the Force Crush. That was so awesome.
Oh, that's a Vader move. That reminded me of Starkiller.
Yeah.
That's the shit he did.
Absolutely crushed it. It was, and then obviously at the beginning, because we thought, okay, when the ship rocked up, I mean, we couldn't believe our eyes. When we saw it was the X-Wing rocking up, we're like, could it really be Luke? Can they really have done this? Because obviously we heard a bit about Mark Hamill not stepping away from the role and all these other things going on. So we thought, it's not unrealistic for Cal Kestis to have a green lightsaber due to the fact that he'd be about 40-something at this time of like the timeline. So I thought, okay, if Cal Kestis is alive, he could have a green lightsaber. And then obviously the X-Wing was already, you're talking about Luke. But then when you see the black glove and the green lightsaber together, that it's Luke. And we're like, this is unbelievable. Like, this is the best Christmas present we've ever had. And then when he reveals the hood, obviously it's not really, it's a de-aging kind of Mark Hamill, which is fine.
They should have deep faked it.
If they deep faked it, would have been a lot better. Or there's talks about having Sebastian Stan, the Winter Soldier, come in and play as who he looks very similar. There's a lot of things on YouTube. You can go check him out. And there's all these videos where it has people doing deep fakes of Sebastian Stan over that Luke Skywalker's figure, and it looks pretty realistic. Like they could make it work definitely. Obviously the hardest point, and if you guys have any of you who are listening have watched Corridor Digital, they do deep fakes as well, and they've done a few episodes.
I was about to say them. They should have done it.
And they said that the hardest thing to do with deep fakes is the lips. You can never get the lips perfectly, and you can see that when he talks, it's a bit funny. But the thing is, at that time, we did not care one bit because it was so magical for us to see prime Luke Skywalker there in The Mandalorian, so many years after we've seen him in Return of the Jedi, like as a young Luke Skywalker, that is. I couldn't believe it. And I looked at I had tears in my eyes. I couldn't believe it. It was so beautiful to see.
We couldn't have watched a better episode as a unit, like all of us together.
Yeah.
And like after we finished it, our mate Pap, he was just like, he was juiced at the arsehole just watching Star Wars stuff. And then we showed him he's probably seen it before, but when we showed him what's the video, the
final battle of against when you verse the ninth, is it the ninth sister or the second sister, sorry, of Jedi Fallen Order, and then when you see Vader rock up,
and like Vader's just ragdolling I just could watch that scene on repeat.
Yeah, I've watched so many different people react to it, and everyone just gets all teary. Like Star Wars Theory, one of the biggest YouTube channels for Star Wars, like he's crying his eyes out, and it's just beautiful because like we love Star Wars. There's no doubt about it, but I have personally, and I think Nick, you're on that sort of side of the fence now, where the sequels probably let it down a little bit.
Definitely, I've flipped 180.
Because we've seen what the original trilogy and then the prequels have done to our childhood growing up, and even the little bits and pieces after. Like Rogue One wasn't a bad Star Wars film. Solo wasn't a bad Star Wars film. I think it was just Solo had a bit of a rough time from the release of The Last Jedi. They lost faith in Star Wars a bit. So from what we've seen, like to now, like it was such a 180 on what they've shown us in the three movies that they released, that we got to see Luke come back and the Luke that we remember from the Return of the Jedi as well.
Yeah, not the whacked out crackhead Luke living by himself on that planet with those little like fish people.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just want to say a big thank you to Dave Filoni and John Favreau about what they've done
mate.
in this,
The
because
true
obviously
ones to bring balance to the Force, man.
the chosen ones, like they have done so much and they've done so well, and that's because now Dave Filoni is put in a position where he's in charge of all the direction and character building of every character that they put forward now. And if you watch him talk, especially I think it's on Disney Plus, they have like all the extras behind the scenes and stuff, and have him talking about like his part of Star Wars and stuff, and you can just tell that he's like the highest of fans, and to him to get to where he is now and to take the shows where we want him to go, like how we feel as fans, it was just an honor for have him in charge of that stuff now. I reckon I'm so keen to see what he does.
Oh, dude, Obi-Wan show will change the world.
Yeah. So obviously, big props to that. That was the best Christmas present we could all have. Obviously, this year has been a tough year for everyone and everything that's gone on around the world, and people are still struggling. And I know there's a lot of Star Wars fans that had hope after watching that scene with Luke Skywalker, that they're, you've had a shit year, but you might be able to turn it around. And that one scene, I mean, that just shows that after everything that happened with the sequels, that they're still good. They can come after this stuff, which we're so keen for.
Oh, dude. And the cherry on top, Hayden Christensen already confirmed back as Vader.
Yeah, in Obi-Wan Kenobi show. So that's obviously a little bit of ways away yet. But while we're talking about that, let's talk about all the new stuff that's coming out. So they've sort of done a massive review. I honestly thought it'd only be like Ahsoka, Mandalorian season 3, and even like the Andor. That was sort of Andor show was sort of like teased to be out, like obviously to get started in production. But then they've come out and just absolutely walloped the fans by releasing a whole host of new like titles for new shows coming up in the next 3 to 4, even 5 years.
Oh, dude. You haven't seen the last season of Clone Wars, but like the Bad Batch is in one of the episodes, and their show is going to be Venom. It's going to be psycho, man, because they are like, the way they explain it in Clone Wars, the Bad Batch is like a bad batch of clones. They're all mutated. They don't look the same, and they've all got different skills. They're not like generic clones.
Yeah.
And they're wicked. Like there's this big, strong dude. He's like the big heavy of the group, but he's scared of heights.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Well, that's the thing. Like I said earlier, I just started after watching The Mandalorian and finished up, the final episode of season 2. I went back and started watching the Clone Wars. So right now I'm near the end of season 3 of the Clone Wars, and obviously there's a bit of time jumping here and there, so there's a bit confusing stuff. But overall, I'm really loving it. Obviously, there's some episodes that aren't really main story, or they're a bit dragging on a bit, but obviously I'm getting up towards the actual really meat of the story coming up in season 4. So I've been loving it. And to actually see Ahsoka from a young, I think she's 14 when you first meet her, and then where I'm up to now, which is like a little time skip, she's 16, I think. That's when all of a sudden she rocks up with 2 lightsabers in an episode. You're like, okay, where'd this come from?
She's got such a unique style because she has a lightsaber, and then she's got like a half-length lightsaber, which is like a dagger version, so left hand. Like no other Jedi's like that. There's dual. She's like a samurai.
We can talk about all the different kind of fighting styles of the Jedi and the Sith and stuff like that, but Ahsoka's is very unique, where she sort of holds, when I know earlier on in the Clone Wars, she holds it sort of like Starkiller, sort of like having the pummel of the blade facing up and the blade facing behind her. So, but then obviously you see, it was really cool because I haven't seen her use 2 lightsabers yet in the Clone Wars, but you see her in the Mandalorian fight with 2, and then she gets disarmed, and you see she's holding it just like a normal lightsaber, and then she does a little flick and goes back to her original stance that she had back from the Clone Wars, like in season 1 and 2. So I picked up on that recently, and I was like, this is awesome, because like obviously they can sort that out because it happened in the past, so they can just make it line up. But yeah, I love Ahsoka in the show, and I can't wait to see, because apparently season 7 you said that she absolutely goes off.
Oh, dude, the last season of Clone Wars is pretty well just Maul and Ahsoka. Like they just fan service, man. It's so lit.
And obviously,
that's why I'm hyped for Obi-Wan, because you get the tease of what he looks like in Solo, and that's the Maul we're going to see in the Obi-Wan show.
Well, obviously, there's so many good characters still floating around, and obviously Ahsoka is in Rebels as well, so I'm keen to see her, her story in that. But yeah, so obviously, let's just talk about the story. The story's coming. So we talked about the Bad Batch. That's a sequel, follow up to the Clone Wars. Obviously, following the clones that obviously go against Order 66, I believe. So that's really cool. We got the Ahsoka, which speaks for itself. And I think after watching the Ahsoka episode of Mandalorian, she'll be chasing after Thrawn, and obviously that might have Ezra involved in it, so we might see a live action Ezra.
Oh, we have to. If Thrawn's in it, we'll see Ezra because that's how Rebels ends with them two going away.
And then you've got Rangers of the New Republic, which I think is going to be like Cara Dune and Bo-Katan or something like that. Apparently, that's what the rumor is.
Yeah, don't care about that.
Which would be interesting.
Unless it's Death Watch.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Rangers of the New Republic would be cool. It'd be cool to follow like an elite squadron of like Republic fighters, doing like missions and stuff. Because some of the cool missions are the blaster battles. Obviously that's more the Mando is, so we'd see more of that maybe. Then you've got the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, which will be eventually. It's pushed back a little bit, so I think it's 2022 or 2023. So, then you've got Andor, which will come out 2023, I believe, as well, which looks, cool because Cassian Andor is a pretty cool character. I liked him in Rogue One. And then you got Lando at some stage, which I'm not really keen for. And Lando is a okay character, but he's just, I feel like they're making that sound like there's going to be something big. There might be Lando and Chewie or something like that. It might be like something after the movies, the sequels.
Man.
Then you've got Star Wars Visions, which is the anime-inspired short episodes by a bunch of Japanese artists, which will be, I think, it's really cool. Because if anyone's seen Love, Death and Robots on Netflix, that's probably what you're looking at. And I loved Love, Death and Robots because you got so many different artistic people doing it in each episode, and it can only go for like 5 to 10 minutes. I think that's really awesome. So I think Star Wars Visions could be a winner, especially for like short stories and stuff like that. I'm just hoping there's one episode where it's just like a Sith and a Jedi just going all out in anime form. That'd be so cool.
Just make the fights from Old Republic anime.
Well, that's the thing. Some of the best fights are from the Old Republic cinematics. Like that is by far some of the coolest Star Wars content out there.
Easily.
Now there's three more, I should say, that at the end of this. One I'm not really keen on, which is a droid story, which I think is C-3PO and R2-D2, which I'm not too cared about, really.
It's going to be a kid's show, I reckon.
I feel like there was a few episodes of Clone Wars where it's just C-3PO and R2-D2, and I was like, okay, yeah, can we get back to the main story now? But in saying that, they are a proper, they've been part of the Star Wars story from the get-go and have always been through it. Then you got Rogue Squadron, which sounds interesting. I think it's being directed by, I forget her name now, but her family's been like in the Air Force and stuff like that, so she loves like fighter jets and stuff like that. So she might have a rough idea of how the best way to sort of shoot this film more realistically as well.
Yeah, hopefully it's like a full dogfighting, like brutal plane movie, but in space. Obviously, I reckon that'd be pretty sick. Something we haven't seen.
Well, how often do we see like starships just get shot down, or like there's like a small dogfight battle? Like I want to see some full high intense, like high octane action of like TIE fighters and the squadron going at each other. Like just be so cool to watch. And then there's one more that is a bit of a mystery at the moment, and that's the Acolyte. So
what's Acolyte again? Is that going to be about Plagueis, you reckon? Palpatine and shit?
This is what they're talking about. They do think it's going to be about Plagueis, about how he gets his way into the Senate, and then obviously because this is like obviously massive. I'm not sure it's been confirmed, but as far as we're concerned, apparently Plagueis was in episode 1. We just didn't see him, but he was killed off screen by Palpatine. I just don't know how it works. But there's talks about Plagueis. Apparently he was around. Apparently in episode 1, that's when he was killed off. Before he could get to Anakin, because obviously that's what Palpatine wanted to do. So, anyways, out of that whole bunch of shows, what is the most one you're keen for, Nick? Like, honestly, like your bare bones, your favorite one that you're really keen for?
Top 3, starting with Obi-Wan. Obviously, Obi-Wan straight away. All the others can die. Obi-Wan, then Ahsoka, then Acolyte. Because if Acolyte's about like the tragedy of Darth Plagueis, that's going to be mental. Because that'll feed into Phantom Menace. Because like the rule of 2. Like it was Plagueis and Palpatine, then he's gone. So it's then Palpatine, Maul, then it was Palpatine, Dooku, then Palpatine, Vader.
Yeah.
But like, shit, man. It's a big lineup, man. I don't think any of them are going to be bad. It's Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think, I'm not sure. Like Lando's the only one that I'm sort of like, and the droid story. They're the two that I'm just like, okay, I don't mind what happens with there. I probably won't watch it. But yeah, Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm really keen to see. The only thing is, I want to see. It's really hard because obviously Kenobi takes place 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. So I'm really interested to see what happens there. And if Hayden Christensen's coming back as Vader, the lore says, and as in the other stories and books and comics, they say that Obi-Wan Kenobi and Vader did not see each other again until they faced on the Death Star. So it'd be interesting to see. So obviously there's going to be some kind of visions or something going on. But it'd be really cool if you actually have an Obi-Wan side of the story, and then there'll be like one or two episodes, like half episodes or something like that, based around Vader and Hayden Christensen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
because I would hate. Obviously, they'd really do it, and obviously with Ewan McGregor coming back, he's obviously just an awesome actor. He was at my childhood as Obi-Wan, so keen to see him back on the big screen again. Film slated as well. There's a Kevin Feige one, and I think he's got like for the Marvel's the Loki show that's on Disney Plus, like for Kevin Feige's movie. So obviously Kevin Feige's done a pretty good job. There's another one as well. I think apparently Rian Johnson is meant to get a trilogy of Star Wars film. He was the one who directed The Last Jedi. So
not
I don't know.
He should be decapitated with a lightsaber.
We don't condone violence on this, but yeah, I honestly think that Star Wars is going in the right direction, and I think they're doing plus like only. In saying that, obviously people can get their hands on it other way, but in saying that there's no large projects, if you know what I mean. I mean, these are all large projects in their own right, but there's no like overarching story of a Star Wars sequel or whatever in films, because I feel like they need to get these out the way and sort these out, say it be a trilogy or something like that.
It's definitely a good thing that they're not like pumping another trilogy down our throats. Just let it simmer. Like, give us these
100%. They've done the right thing now, and compared to the three movies that they gave, I've said it from the get-go, and I'm glad that you've come around to it eventually. I know sometimes it's when you love something so much, it's hard to let it go, and I can see that that's how you felt about it, because you absolutely love Star Wars, and so do I. In the sequel films, that The Force Awakens was bearable, and I liked it. I was like, when you see Luke Skywalker, you're like one of my childhood heroes sitting there, and he has no hope, no ambition, and he just lightsaber. I was just like, what am I witnessing? Like, this isn't the Luke that I knew growing up. This is not the Luke that I envisioned being a Grand Master Jedi either. It was so disheartening.
Got good Luke now, Mando. So
yeah,
I got hope.
And there was actually talk. They thought that there might be like a Luke Skywalker show. Unless they recast him as Sebastian Stan or another actor that looks very similar to what Mark Hamill looked like when he was younger, I don't think that's a good idea, because how can you can't have him running around with a hood on the whole time in battles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky one. A tricky one.
In saying that, Star Wars is in good hands. Dave Filoni, we praise you for what you have done, and we hope that you can take us into the future with some absolutely awesome content. And obviously, in just a quick plug for this as well, Marvel's got a bunch of shows releasing this year as well. I mean, WandaVision releases on the 15th of January, which is in a few days from now.
Yeah, we'll definitely have one episode about WandaVision, talk about the pilot when that comes out. I'm still up in the air, man, because even the comics of like the Vision family with Wanda and stuff, they're whacked out and cracked out, and Meth City, man, it's weird because she's psycho. But I saw an article. There's like a tin of coffee or a paper or something in the background, and it says House of M in French. So are they setting up the House of M movie?
That'd be lit.
Oh, dude. Oh, you got to read House of M, man. It kicks off.
I'm just thinking overall now, like Marvel and Star Wars, or so I should say, like, the Star Wars universe and the Marvel universe are probably in good hands. I think they're starting to like really knuckle down on certain things, and get them in the right direction. I'm really keen for Falcon and Winter Soldier, because I love Sebastian Stan's Winter Soldier, so I'm keen to see that.
I'm not keen at all for that.
Yeah, I have to admit that there were some parts that I wasn't really keen on, because I didn't know what kind of budget they're running with. But from the stuff I've seen on sets and stuff, I think it's going to look pretty good. So I don't know. Overall, obviously, Spider-Man 3 comes out this year, doesn't it? I think. Yeah.
Dude, that's another episode.
So yeah, so much going on this year. Obviously, 2021 is, unfortunately, around the world is going to be much of the same with this whole thing that's going on that we don't want to talk about. But content-wise, there's plenty of stuff coming out, and there's plenty of stuff for us to talk about. So this is only the episode 1 of season 2. We hope you've enjoyed it. Nick, final words?
Oh yeah, and one more thing to mention: High Republic comics. That'll be down.
About that. Yeah,
that's going to be lit as well. But yeah, signing off. All good.
Yeah, thanks guys for tuning in for our season 2 pilot, I guess we could call it again. Nah, but not. I think it's just the episode 25 of the entire podcast, but season 2. So we hope you enjoyed it. We hope that you stick around. You do the usual. let's just plug ourselves quickly. So we've got our Twitter, we've got our Instagram now as well. You can go check out on the Beardworks podcast. We have a YouTube channel, the Beardworks podcast as well. That's got some gameplay and some videos talking about. In a quick touch on that, we're not going to be putting gameplay with every video game we talk about, only the ones that we really want to showcase something in the game or that's really important to us, because it is all fun in games. We're loving what we're doing. And yeah, we don't always have the time to make that gameplay available. So please just bear with us and enjoy the content that we're putting out for you at the moment. So I think that's about it, isn't it, Nick?
Yeah, dude, I'm just sitting here sketching on Procreate as we're recording. Might just continue this for a bit, then have a nap.
All right, guys, thanks for listening and tune in to us next week. Cheers.
Peace out.